Hey everyone, it's Khara CrossFit Brindle. Welcome back to the channel. Familiar face, my good friend and colleague Alex. Hi Alex, good morning.
Hey, Khara, how are you?
Doing well. So thank
Good.
you for being here. I want you to introduce yourself to anyone who hasn't seen you on this channel. Let's start there and then we'll tell people what we're up to.
Yeah, my name is Alex Castro Croy, and I am a trauma and addiction counselor here in Denver, Colorado. And I do a lot of trauma counseling, consulting, and training.
Hmm. Yes, and Alex is someone that you all need to know. If you don't know him, you'll see him a lot on my channel. We work really well together, so you're always on
Exactly.
here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, of course, I thought of Alex when I was like, I need to do a role play. So this is a role play of what it looks like to close with a client, what it looks like to graduate a client from therapy. I know my students have had this question for years. What does this look like? What's the formula? And I wouldn't say there's a true formula, but there are certain things that I do. So I'm going to model that through this role play with Alex, and then Alex will share with you all what his closing session looks like. So that is what this video is all about. All right, Alex, when you're ready, let's jump into character and see what happens.
Right. I'm ready. Let's go.
Hi, Alex. How are you?
Good. A little sad, but uh, actually good to be here. Yeah.
Yeah, I know we've been talking for several weeks now about this being our last session. You kind of named that you're sad. Any other feelings you're noticing as we're coming into this last meeting?
I just there's a little anxiety, mainly because I'm so used to the routine of meeting with you. First, we started every week, and now it's every other week. So it's like it's my appointments are going to look totally different now that I don't have you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and that's so natural. I hear that from a lot of clients where it's like, what if something happens? I feel a little anxious. This has been a part of like stability for people. So I appreciate you being able to name that for yourself of like, hey, I'm noticing this coming up as we're wrapping up today. That anxiety is normal. Is there anything I can do to reassure you as we're getting into this last appointment together?
No, I think the fact that you keep reiterating that I can give you a call for any, a booster session or just a follow up, that really helps me calm down. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, as I always say, like I'm not going anywhere. I'm still here. My number's the same. And so I know when we first started working together, we really emphasized, you and I, that therapy is something that feels short term in the sense of it gives you the skills you need for a moment in time, and then it gives you a chance to try on those skills and do that on your own. And I think that's the stage you're at now. And we went through kind of a maintenance phase with that biweekly schedule, and you're doing so well at this point. So I have a couple questions for you as part of this last session, just to kind of reflect and kind of sit in that with me. Is that okay?
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. I appreciate that. So one of my favorite questions to ask is, do you remember what it was like when you first started? Can you think back to the, 2 years ago when we started this work and where you are now? You remember back
Oh,
then?
yeah, I remember I was an anxious mess. I didn't know how to regulate. I was constantly breaking down and crying. It was,
Mm,
yeah, who I am today and who I was. I mean, I was going through a lot of grief and I just did not know how to deal with it. And I had a lot of cognitive distortions about not crying and whatnot. So it helped me navigate my emotions and instead of them dominating me, honoring them and being able to process them. Yeah.
yeah. So being able to kind of think back to that older version of yourself, which for so many people, they go, man, I haven't thought about that person for a while, especially when,
Right.
we've worked together for 2 years. And I
Yeah.
love starting there because there is so much strength. There's so much growth that you've done. And you named that beautifully just now. Like, oh, I went from really anxious, a big ball of mess and anxiety to, hey, I actually have permission to cry and have that vulnerability with your emotions. So that's a beautiful transition.
Right, right. And I think the other piece also is being able to identify instead of saying I'm a mess or I'm just I'm messed up or I'm broken. Just to
Mm,
identify, no, I'm sad, I'm upset, I'm frustrated, I feel hopeless, I feel helpless. I'm able to name them now more instead of
yes.
just generalizing and packing them together. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, we talked a lot about this in our sessions previously, but what I'm noticing as you're talking today is just how different that feels to like name the emotion versus saying, I'm a mess,
Mm.
I'm messed up, I'm broken. I mean, we worked so hard on like saying this negative self talk isn't helping you at all. And so I imagine just you reflecting on that today is helpful. Like, wow, this feels so different than what you used to
Yeah.
do.
100%, yeah. And it just brings a sense of awareness and just be more mindful of this is how I feel. What do I need? And what do I need to do to honor that? So instead of
Mhm.
just compartmentalizing it and let it build up, another emotion, compartmentalizing it, build up, build up, build up. So yeah.
Absolutely. So in our 2 years together, we looked at those cognitive distortions. We did a lot of reframing, reworking that language of what you said to yourself. We looked at your inner critic and how to like shut them down a little bit so that you could be more your authentic self, which I know really resonated with you with the visualization and the work that we did on that. Of course, we talked a lot about boundaries and how that's going to change as you go forward with relationships. And we touched on that grief and loss that brought you into the work of like feeling that emotion, feeling that sadness, feeling those tears. And so you've accomplished a lot. And 2 years, I don't know about you, but 2 years felt like it went pretty fast. What do you think?
It did. Considering the place that I was mentally, employment-wise, friendship-wise, where I was 2 years to where I am, it's like night and day, total night and day. I agree, 100%. Yeah.
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 What's it like to reflect on that with me today?
Yeah, actually, very empowering. Very empowering. Very. It's almost like I'm very proud of myself for everything that I've done and I've been able to accomplish. Um, I did a lot of work. I've done a lot of
Mhm.
work. I mean, it's not done, but now therapy, this is where I put therapy into action, where it's like, okay, now I know. So I have to
That's
move
right.
forward. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
I have the tools. I have the tools. So I just doing it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And just reflecting that back to you, like I hear you saying you have the tools. You absolutely do. You've worked really hard. And I've been honored to be a part of this process with you. Another question I like to ask as people are kind of transitioning out and graduating is what would need to be happening in your world to come back to therapy? So I know you had some anxiety that showed up. So like, what would it be like to name a couple of warning signs to say this is when I need to come back?
When I start isolating and I start shutting down, or when I'm noticing that I'm not like for me, I tend to look a lot of my feeling a little antsy, or I'm feeling very disengaged, or very outside of my body. I'm not no, not
Mm.
so much dissociating, but fidgety, like overwhelming. My little fidgets that I do that should let me know. I think that's the sign. Okay, something's off, and I need to go check in. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. We worked so hard to figure out what those warning signs are. I knew that they'd be right there when I asked this question of like, oh, it would be these couple things. And, how long would those have to be happening
Yeah.
for you to think you need to come back? Because I think you and I have really normalized like you're allowed to have a bad day, you're allowed to have a bad week. So how long would you need to see those things happening to say, I really need that support?
I think I start losing sleep once I start being the lack of production in work and the lack of engagement. So I think isolation, sleep hygiene, and lack of production, and engaging with peers. I think that's where I need to come back.
Yeah, that makes sense. You and I did a lot of talk therapy. We did a lot of like cognitive behavioral therapy work together with some visualization, some mindfulness, some body sensation stuff. If you had to think about another provider down the road, what would be on your wish list of things you'd want to try for yourself as part of that journey?
I think based on what I've learned with you, I would want to try some methods. Probably maybe even consider doing some neurofeedback or biofeedback with talk therapy to be very mindful of the brain body emotion connection, and just allow my to retrain my brain. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. I know you've looked into that. We've talked about that before. So that seems like a normal next step for you to be like, hey, let's try that on and see if that's needed. So that's something you can definitely pursue in the future if you needed to. As we already named, I'm still here if you need something from me. Any feedback on our work together, things you want me to know that you liked, things that you didn't like. I always like to get that feedback from clients for future client work of the exercises you liked or didn't like, just so I can consider that for other folks that I'm working with.
I really appreciated the early appointments. I'm a morning person, and so I appreciated being able to meet with you early in the morning. Really appreciated that. And I appreciated a lot of the experience of being in my body, taking deep breaths, noticing, and how you challenged me. I liked the way you challenged me. It was very direct and empathetic. And so I was very hesitant about that. So I appreciate that. Yeah, that's the only thing I would say. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, as I think back on all the work we've done, I know there were certain homeworks that didn't resonate as deeply as others. So I'm kind of thinking about that for other clients of what's best fit. But it sounds like there's nothing coming to mind or top of mind that you didn't like or that you would want me to change.
No, everything was fine. Yeah, appreciated it. Yeah.
I appreciate that feedback, Alex. So yeah, so I think, what we've looked at is kind of the journey of the last 2 years and how you worked so hard, the things that we've covered together, how you've come from grief and loss to really being more authentic in your body with those emotions, the emotional intelligence, being able to name the inner critic. You've done a lot of work around that. We've touched on the warning signs that you'd have to see. So that sleep hygiene, isolation, loss of productivity, things like that. To come back into the work, whether it's with me, which is always an option, or with another provider, something like neurofeedback or somatic experiencing from what you shared today. And so, kind of the last piece is I want to send you a book that we've been talking about as your graduation gift. So, I wanted to get your permission if it's okay to send a book to the address I have on file for you since we've been working telehealth these last couple sessions. Would that be okay to send you?
Yes, I'd appreciate that. Definitely.
Yeah, it's just something I like to do with clients is give them something that continues the work. And I have a book in mind that I think you'd really enjoy based on all of the work we've done together, but might also help you with those next steps outside of therapy. And if you ever have to come back into therapy, it might be a tool that you utilize with your new provider or back with me if you decide to. So I appreciate that permission to send that your way and to see what you think of that.
Yeah, totally appreciate it. And to read, so I'm definitely open to that.
Awesome. Any final thoughts, Alex, as we're wrapping up our graduation session? Kind of coming to the end here. How are you feeling about it?
I'm feeling better. Like I said, the fact that I can always come back if I need to, just being very mindful of what sort of things I need to be aware of somatically, emotionally, and just be mindful of my awareness. So I do appreciate that.
Yeah. My hope is that you'll continue to utilize the skills that we've introduced and worked on together. If there's anything you need a refresher on, you know how to reach out to me by email or by phone. If you decide to work with a neurofeedback provider or someone who does somatic experiencing, I'm also very happy to have you sign a release so I can get them up to speed on the work we have done if that's ever helpful. So just know that those are always options even after we wrap up today. How's that sound?
Totally fine. I appreciate that I appreciate you volunteering to do that too. So I don't have to repeat a lot of stuff that I've already worked on.
Yeah, it's definitely something I've heard from other clients who are like, oh, if I could just not start over, it would be great. So if there's anything I can do, if you need a copy of anything, or if I need to connect with a new provider for you down the road, just know that you can always reach out to me by email or phone. That's always an option.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Well, at this point, I want to wish you luck on the next stage of your journey. I really appreciate the fact that we did such great work together over the last 2 years, and I feel honored to be part of your journey. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Khara, and I wish you the best as well. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, I'll send a book your way as part of your graduation gift and take care.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Okay. So for viewers, that's where this role play stops. Of course, I did kind of an abridged version. For folks that are watching this video, sometimes it can be a whole session, right? A whole 55-minute session where you just like create spaciousness for the client to feel all the things, to reflect on all the tools. As I named in the video, my favorite part is thinking back to where they started. So asking Alex to think back 2 years ago as the client, a lot of people forget how it looked or go, wow, I have come so far. So I really like starting there for folks. Alex, do you want to do a quick role play of what your ending session kind of
Sure,
sounds like?
sure. Yeah, and
Okay.
I just want to preface it that it's a lot like what Khara did, but mine does past, present, and future. So definitely, yeah,
Ooh,
I love it.
love
So
it. Okay,
all right,
let's see it.
all right. Hey, Khara, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you, Alex.
So I wanted to touch bases with you since we've been preparing for this day for about 2 months now. I wanted to see how are you feeling regarding our being our last session.
I mean, nervous but excited. I'm
Yeah,
feeling mostly ready. I'm curious to see what we're going to cover today to help me
yeah,
feel, my best. But for the most part, 2 months of preparing, I appreciate that because I'm an anxious planner. So
yes.
yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about it.
So now, last session we talked about the goals that you achieved, and today I want to really summarize on looking at everything we worked on and everything you've done, who you were versus who you are, and who you are desire. How has that shaped who you desire to be? You're desiring to be. Can you summarize that for me?
Yeah, I mean, who I was, who I was. I was a people pleaser. I don't feel like I'm not anymore. So that really showed up loudly as you were just talking just then. So I was that person, people pleasing, poor boundaries, saying yes to things I didn't want to say yes to in the work or where I am now. I feel like I'm a more healthy, well rounded person because I know how to say no. So that feels good. Not saying no to things I don't feel good about. Like I'm listening to my gut more. So that feels really awesome. Future self. I know you and I've joked about this a lot in therapy because we have really good rapport. Like I'm looking forward to the stage where I don't care what people think. So going from
Yeah,
people pleasing to
definitely.
like other end, but not in a cold, angry way,
Right.
just in a like I'm self assured. So I think that's what I want for my future.
Yeah, definitely. And how do you feel as of today, based on your future and your past?
Hopeful that I'm on my way there. I feel like I've come so far and not being so burnt out in my workplace and saying no to others. So I think I am steps closer to that authentic, future self that's like, I don't care what people think and I'm doing this because it matters.
Yes, definitely. So you've seen how far you've come. You've seen how much you've evolved and grown as a person. So,
Yeah,
and so,
that's kind of
yeah,
cool.
yeah, definitely. And I want to reiterate one of the biggest tools that you've talked about, and I want to remind you of as a Raider scale, if you mean, is the perms. How do you feel like you can use perms as you move forward?
Perms is so easy for me to remember. I really appreciate that you taught me this acronym and what these letters mean because I feel like that's going to be a gauge for me of like how am I doing physically right now? Like you and I did so much work around my warning signs. Like I feel like that's where perms is just going to be a not to be a play on words, but like a permanent part of my life.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think that's a really cool tool for me to use from here.
And when do you notice that you're going to need additional support or you need to reach out for more support?
I think if my inner critic gets really loud again, or I start finding myself saying yes to things I don't want to do and then feeling resentful, like I was just so angry and resentful when I started therapy because I felt like I was just being pulled in a million directions on things that didn't align with my value. Um, so I think if that happens again, where all of a sudden I'm like really angry or short tempered, that like short fuse irritability that you and I talked a lot about, that to me feels like a warning sign that I need to come in and do the work again because I've backslid back to some people pleasing.
Right, definitely. So you're very mindful. Here's the tools. Here's the Raider scale. When you bring them together, you're like, okay, I'm very mindful. So I'm self-aware. I know how I feel and I know what I need to do. And you're able to
That's
stay.
right.
Yeah. And normally when I refer people out, I always ask them what are some different modalities or different things aside from you coming back if you want to come back to me. What are some other areas that you'd like to explore as a treatment modality or intervention that you would say, I'd like a referral to maybe women's issue, someone who specializes in women's issues, someone who specializes in EMDR. What would you say would be comfortable for you that you would like to explore?
Yeah. Uh, I mean, I definitely have been reading some of the books you and I talked about in our sessions around parts works. I feel like that was really helpful for my inner critic to be a part of me and then my anger to be a part of me. So maybe some IFS parts work. I
Okay.
think that's what you called it, IFS. Is that the right
Yes.
acronym?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Family systems.
And and so I'm thinking that I know I came across something about brain spotting and thought that was fascinating. So like you and I talked briefly about that. So those are kind of the two things that I might be willing to try from here if I needed to.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. And definitely. And so, and the other piece that I wanted to also bring up is let's talk about the addition to your soul tribe. How is your soul tribe going to help support you if maybe this is not a therapeutic, but who are you going to reach out as your Maury lines to help support you?
Yeah. I think that's probably been the biggest change in the work we've done together is just embracing that vulnerability and being like, oh, I'm allowed to ask for help because that people pleaser is like I have to be helpful to everyone all the time. So having a soul tribe now, I think they can hold me accountable. My hope is they'll also tell me if I'm starting to backslide. Like sometimes I can't see it, or I don't want to get like 3 weeks into it and then know that it's not good for me. I feel like my soul tribe can be the one to hold up the mirror saying, hey, I'm noticing that you're saying yes to something and now you're complaining about it, but they'll say it in a way that I can hear it. So maybe that would be a good thing for them.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. And so, and just know that you can always get new Soul Tribe members when someone's season expired, right?
Mm.
And just know that that's part of the process as well. Is there any additional feedback that you'd like to, something you like, something you would have wished it would have improved with regarding our work together?
I really liked the sound baths and the nervous system stuff that we did. I really didn't understand how my nervous system was always on and active until I felt what it felt like to not have it activated, if that makes sense. So
Mhm.
going from like high idle to,
Correct.
oh,
Yeah.
this is what it's like to be calm and regulated. So I thought that was super helpful. I think if we'd only done talk therapy, I wouldn't have experienced what it was like to actually be at peace. And so that was super helpful to have that.
Okay. Okay. So anything different you'd like?
Uh, Not off the top of my head. You know me, I like to read and research things. So maybe it's just about like supportive articles or things you'd want me to read about a certain concept. I know you did a lot of education and taught me things. So if there's like some backup articles, maybe that would be helpful. But I don't think there's anything critical to change.
Okay. Okay. Thanks. I appreciate that feedback. Yeah, definitely. Would there be anything else that you'd like to give feedback on regarding your process, space, anything we worked on that would help benefit someone else?
I mean, it's not necessarily the therapeutic work, but I really appreciate this is gonna sound silly, but I really appreciated that you had like coffee and tea available for people, that you had parking. Like that's something for me as an anxious person. The fact that your office had parking was really helpful to me. I know we moved to telehealth because I got a new job and
Right, right.
this worked better for my new schedule. But when I was in the office doing a lot of those sound baths and nervous system stuff, just having those things available meant a lot to me. So I hope you don't
Yeah.
change that because I think future
Yeah.
clients would like that too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And feel free if you see me around in like a conference or something to say hi. Normally I respect confidentiality. Yeah, but if you want to say hi to me, I'd be more than happy to touch bases with you and say hi as well as a human individual connecting on that level. So, Khara, it's been a pleasure working with you. I appreciate and remember, you got my number, you got my contact information. If you need anything else, please feel free to reach out.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you for everything.
You're welcome. And there we go.
It's relatively easy to role play with Alex because we know each other so well,
Yeah.
even though we're embodying self and other clients
Yeah.
that we've worked with. So
Right.
hopefully, viewers, these two videos are helping you feel more prepared for a closing session. We don't always get this. We don't always get the opportunity to say goodbye in a way that feels intentional, also known as conscious closure, right? Of like saying our goodbyes, reflecting on the work, asking for feedback. Like those are all part of that formula that we started this video by talking about. But like there's no particular order, but a lot of us ask for feedback, ask how it went, reflect on what they need, ask if there's anything different.
Correct.
So hopefully that's helping our viewers when it comes to closing out of a therapy relationship. Any final thoughts, Alex?
No, I appreciate the fact that that I think I want to circle back if you do get critical feedback, take it as a learning experience and don't beat yourself up. Do not beat yourself up. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
for a lot of us, this is why we had a runway of a couple sessions ahead of time saying we're going to end soon, or in the role play, you said 2 months. So, like, I think depending on the client and their own anxiety, how much time do they need to prepare to end? Are they excited to
Mhm.
graduate? Are they feeling like they've accomplished their goals? And so, even just having the runway helps them think about what's the feedback. So, like, you might even
Correct.
say, in our last session, I'm going to ask you some things like your warning signs if you need to come back into therapy, feedback on our process together. So they're prepared, they start thinking about it ahead of time. So that can be
Correct.
really helpful for clients who want to know what to expect in that last session.
Correct.
For some of you, it's a final exercise you do with them, some transitional object. In my case, it was a book because telehealth clients were not in person handing them a letter or handing them a seed packet or handing them a worry stone or something else that feels meaningful. So just starting to think about, do you want to give a gift? Is it more about just positive words? Those are things I want
Mhm.
our viewers, excuse me, to think about as well. Is like, what do you want that transition to truly look like? If your client asks for a hug, if you're in person, how do you want that to go? Are you a physical touch person? Do you want to just be like,
Yeah.
good luck, go forth? So those are some things to consider. Alex, what would you add?
Yeah. No, I agree. There's a lot of people at closing session, they ask for a hug, and I always do the side hugs and totally, or I do the handshake with the holding of the hand, like wish you well, especially based on their comfort level, definitely. And for me, I like the gifting of, words. For me, was the perms. Remember perms. Remember perms. That's the huge one that I use with my clients. Remember perms. The way to stay, and I use it with you. You know, here it is. Take it with you. Take it as a little reminder of always checking in with yourself. Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. That's the legacy from Alex's work as a therapist. So yeah, so viewers, hopefully this is helpful to all of you, get you at least thinking about that conscious closure, what that structure could look like for a final session with your clients. And stay tuned for more videos. Alex, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. See y'all later. See you in the next video.